Hi, this is Polly Matthews.
I'm Stacy Browning.
I'm Ashley Hartley.
And I'm Lexi Brown. And this is our unit plan for Education 322.
So our selected grade for our unit plan is second grade, and we chose 3 subjects to complete our unit plan, including social studies, reading and writing, and computer technology. So this lesson plan focuses on biographies and autobiographies of historical figures that the students will learn about through our SOL. The students will focus on given figures and be able to write and present on them. During the social studies aspect of the unit plan, the students will all learn about the same historical figure, Helen Keller. Students will learn about Helen Keller through a read aloud that the teacher will present and additional in-class activities. In the second subject of the unit plan, reading and writing, students will choose their own historical figure to learn about and write facts about their chosen figure. Finally, in the computer aspect of the unit plan, students will find a picture of their historical figure and choose to learn about and then they will paste the pictures into a Google Doc. The students will then learn how to share documents with the teacher, given her email address. Lastly, the students will present their facts that they wrote about the historical figure, while the teacher is able to show pictures emailed to her of that person. So here we listed our standards. For Lesson 1, the Virginia State Standard is 2.4. The student will describe how the contributions of selected individuals changed the lives of Americans, with emphasis on E. Helen Keller. There are other historical figures through this SOL that the students will be learning about, but the teacher chose to teach about Helen Keller in this particular lesson. So the national standard is 2nd grade, Era 6, Standard 2. The student will describe a massive immigration after 1870 and describe how social patterns, conflicts, and ideas of national unity developed amid growing cultural diversity. In Lesson 2, our state standard is the students will write a variety of forms to include narrative, descriptive, opinion, and expository writing. Section F, write facts about a subject to support a main idea. The national standard is from Common Core. 2.3, describe how characters in a story respond to major events and challenges. Finally, in Lesson 3, our state standard is 2.6, communicate effectively with others in collaborative learning situations. Subject A, use technology tools for individual and collaborative writing, communication, and presentation activities. Also, we have 2.3, which is the students will use oral communication skills. Subject A, use oral language for different purposes to inform, persuade, entertain, or clarify and respond. Finally, our national standard for Lesson 3 comes from NLENGK 12.4, communication skills. Students adjust their use of spoken, written, and visual language to communicate effectively with a variety of audiences for different purposes. The main goal of this unit plan is for students to engage in many learning skills while learning about significant historical figures that are crucial to American history. The objectives for Lesson 1 is, given the lesson on her story, students will write a script and act out in groups of 5 the life of Helen Keller, including 3 key moments from her childhood, from her young adulthood, and adulthood. The objective for Lesson 2 is, given the reading of Who Was Helen Keller, students will read a biography and interact with specific groups and be able to write 5 out of 7 facts about the historical figure that they are given, or chose. Lesson 3 is, given previous biographies on Helen Keller or another historical figure on the SOL list, students will give a presentation on the historical figure with 4 out of 5 facts correctly shared and a picture of the correct historical figure presented. Key concepts of this unit plan is more focused on what students can take away rather than the school subjects that they'll be learning about. The students will learn a great deal about historical individuals through this unit plan. The first one about Helen Keller specifically includes many realistic lessons about her life. The essential vocabulary for this lesson includes the words past, sign language, blind, deaf, and braille. Even though the social studies aspect of this lesson is the main idea, the students gain perspective on how Helen Keller lived her life through the activities of this lesson. I know this lesson focuses a specific activity is when the students are blindfolded and they have to communicate with other students in the classroom, with earmuffs on as well. The second lesson focuses on taking what students have learned through the reading and putting it onto paper. The essential vocabulary for Lesson 2 includes read, write, information, book, summarize, and sentences. The students will read a biography or autobiography on their own before writing down facts about their specific figure. This lesson connects to the unit on reading and writing, furthering the students' abilities to infer information about the books that they read. Finally, the students will take what they learned from Lesson 1 and Lesson 2 and put together a small presentation about the historical figure they read about. Essential vocabulary for this lesson includes historical figure, Google Docs, and facts. The students will get the chance to practice their technology, oral speaking skills during Lesson 3. The students will paste a picture into Google Docs, learn about sharing the docs with the teacher, and present their paragraph from the day before. So here we listed our resources for the 3 lessons. It includes blindfolds, earmuffs, paper, pencils, smartboard, classroom library, Chromebooks, and Google Docs. Finally, our lunching activity is just a small engaging activity for each student. They will come to the front of the room and present 3 facts about him or herself. The students will find this presentation easier because they're talking about themselves, and it's always easiest to talk about something that you're familiar with. What students don't realize is that they're presenting a short autobiography about themselves. Students will then be transitioning into a time of learning about the differences between autobiographies and biographies. The teacher will explain that if the students were to write a book about themselves, they would share the same facts that they shared with the class, and it would be an autobiography. However, the book about Helen Keller that is read is a biography. Additionally, the students have now practiced speaking in front of the class as well as learning the differences between autobiography and biographies.
So for our course map, we chose the subjects Social Studies, Reading and Writing, and Computer Technology. For Subject 1, Social Studies, we talked about how the students will be able to, they will be introduced to Helen Keller on that day. So on this day, we will do a read aloud, and then they will complete a 5-finger retelling chart to, as an assessment to remember the story throughout the week that they will be talking about Helen Keller and just her life. For day 2, for social science, we have that the students will learn about Helen Keller by actually being able to participate in an activity that lets them sympathize with Helen Keller. So they will have a blindfold on and earmuffs, and they will need to partner up, and they have to communicate a sentence to the other person without using words, obviously, because they're not going to be able to understand them just by using their hands. And it's going to be very difficult and challenging, and that's the point, so that they can see what Helen Keller's life is actually like. And then day 3, we have a very exciting interactive activity. They will be a guest speaker, and the guest speaker will be able to tell them what it's like to be deaf. This speaker will be deaf, and how that has impacted their life. And then they can also teach them some sign language. That way they can sympathize even greater with what it is like to be deaf and blind. And finally, they will write in their journals, and they will draw a picture so that they can remember what happened. So back to lesson 2.
Lesson 2 is our reading and writing lesson. And in this, on the first day, the students will be introduced to the concept of a biography. The teacher will do this by just talking to them about how a biography is a book written about a specific person, about true events from their life. After this, they will go into a think, pair, share, and talk to another student about facts from their life, which could be turned into a biography. And they will take that and use their reading journal to write these 5 facts about themselves that could be turned into a biography. The second day, the teacher will quickly review what a biography is, and how the students read a Helen Keller biography the day before in social studies. The teacher will then conduct a read aloud of another biography, and the students will help her pick 3 facts from that book as a class to write on the board in full sentences from the biography. The students will then write in their journal these 3 facts, as long as 2 more which they have found, and 2 of these facts need to be written in full sentence form in their writing journal. On the last day, the teacher will quickly review what a biography is once again, and the students will be assigned a short biography on Google Classroom according to their reading comprehension level. And from there, they will pick out They will discuss with their table team at least 3 facts from their biography, and then from there, they will be able to write out 5 facts either from the biography which they read on Google Classroom, or they will write out the 5 facts which they previously picked from themselves in full sentence form, so that they have created at the end a mini biography by either themselves or another historical figure.
Okay, and lesson plan 3 cannot be started until day 3 because students need their 5 facts. So this is the diagnostic or pre-assessment. Students will share their 5 facts with their teacher. The teacher will determine if enough information has been found out for their presentations. If not, students will work on finding those 5 facts and work to getting them improved by the teacher. If students are done, then they have the opportunity to find more facts. The teacher will discuss the instructions for the research presentation and lay out all the guidelines. Each student must have at least 5 facts and at least 1 picture of their historical figure. For the second day of the lesson plan, the students will begin working on their individual presentations. The gifted students are expected to type all 5 facts in Google Slides along with providing a picture. The other students have the option of typing their facts or transcribing them into note cards. Each student must have at least 1 picture of their historical figure as discussed on day 3. They can put this picture into Google Doc or Google Slides. Students will spend the entire class time working on their presentations. This is their formative assessment. If students finish early, then they will be allowed to practice in front of their teacher or some of their peers, and students will be expected to practice their presentation for homework. On the last day, the students will present their research presentations, and this is their summative assessment. The teacher is looking to hear 5 clearly stated facts along with 1 picture of their historical figure. Students are aware of these expectations because they were stated in the previous 2 days. While each student is presenting, their peers are expected to have respect and listen. The teacher will use a simple rubric to grade.
So our evaluation and assessments are all in the unit map. For diversity and differentiation, we include different aspects of modalities of learning in each of the lessons. So each lesson has a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic aspect so that each student is able to learn to the best of their abilities in each of the lessons. Students with exceptionalities, we do have 1 student that is ADHD and 1 ELL, and there are also 2 with a reading disability. So for the ADHD student, we're just allowing him or her to take a lap around the room whenever he or she becomes too loud. The students with reading disabilities are allowed to access Chromebooks and have the books read to them to follow along, so they're not following behind. Students with advanced needs, in the reading and writing lesson, the biographies are differentiated on different reading levels, so each student can read a book that's at his or her reading level. For the English language learner, we allowed extra time for him or her to finish the assignments, and they may also take their fact sheet home for them because we know it's difficult to learn about transitioning from one language to another. So for character principles, this lesson really ties in a lot of good Christian values. One of the main ones is simply compassion. Students will need to learn compassion towards their peers that are different than them anyway, but this really gives them a great grasp of what it's like to be in their shoes. So we really included that in our lesson. Not only that, but it allows students to meet their peers where they are at and just love on them the way Christ loves us. In addition, this also teaches them how to clearly communicate so that in the future, if they are ever presenting the gospel or simply just being there for someone, they can clearly communicate with them what they need to know and love and learn. These are our references, and we collaborated well throughout this process. We made sure that each lesson connected to the one before it or after it, and that each student would benefit from the interdisciplinary approach. So thank you for listening to our unit plan presentation.